You are the kind who refuses to shrink into the mold handed down by others. You sense a pulse inside you that whispers of more, of higher ground, of thresholds not yet broken. Close your eyes and watch what happens when imagination is unchained. A horizon bends, doors open in places where walls once stood, and the familiar rules of weight and measure no longer dictate what is possible. The voices of caution may call you reckless, yet something deeper within does not yield. It insists on possibility where none is granted. That unrelenting insistence is the human spark that revolts against limitation. Within this rebellion lies a hidden current, not outside but woven into the very fabric of awareness. This current is not still, it is alive, brimming with the power to weave experience into form. Consciousness is not a backdrop, it is the loom where reality is threaded. Each pulse of thought sends a ripple that reorganizes the space you stand in. Imagine what that means. Your anger is not just a passing storm. Your delight is not just a fleeting warmth. And your fear is not just a shadow cast in the mind. They are all blueprints, shaping the landscape around you, shifting unseen gears that determine how life unfolds. This recognition transforms awareness into an elemental force, not inert, not secondary, but essential. It rivals the invisible forces that hold stars in their orbits, as though your very perception participates in the grand architecture of existence. You didn't stumble here by accident. You were led. If something in your spirit is stirring, don't ignore it. Tap join to access exclusive content, prophetic insights, and a community of purpose-driven souls. This isn't just a membership, it's your moment of alignment. Step into who you were born to be. Welcome to the chosen. Defiance, then, is not rebellion for its own sake, but a declaration that the unseen can command the visible, that the quiet spark inside can move mountains outside. It is the refusal to accept the given script, and the daring to author your own. The vortex of consciousness is not a distant concept, but the very threshold you cross each time you believe the improbable. Each time you decide that what others call fantasy is, in truth, the seed of your becoming. It is here, in this storm of awareness, that the extraordinary begins to take shape. You carry within you the ability to untangle what others have tightly bound, to notice the invisible threads that weigh on the spirit, and choose to rise in spite of them. Every collective carries with it an atmosphere, and within that atmosphere are residues of belief, patterns repeated so many times they begin to feel immovable. These patterns surround the mind like dense fog, urging conformity while silencing the whisper of possibility. What feels like reality is often nothing more than the echo of accepted assumptions. The task before you is not to surrender to that fog, but to pierce it. This requires an unwavering awareness, an alertness to the ways inherited stories try to shape your steps. Each time you recognize the origin of a thought not truly your own, you reclaim authority over the path ahead. The moment you discern what no longer nourishes you, you are already rewriting the laws that hold you down. To accomplish this, a shift in orientation is demanded. It is like discovering that your compass, long trusted, was magnetized by external forces. The true direction lies not in what has been imposed, but in what resonates within. Adjusting this inner compass allows you to realign with a freedom that had always been waiting. Such recalibration is not merely an act of release, it is also an act of creation. By reshaping the field of thought, you lighten the density around you. What once felt like chains dissolve into open space, and what once confined you becomes material for expansion. This is how the unseen weight of others' convictions loses its grip. Equally vital is the choice of perception over conclusion. To perceive is to allow reality to breathe, to remain open to unfolding patterns rather than cement them too soon. Judgment, though seductive, hardens into walls that prevent discovery. Perception keeps the doorway ajar, inviting what is unfamiliar to step forward and reveal itself. When perception leads, the world ceases to be a fixed puzzle and becomes instead an ever-changing tapestry. Each encounter shifts the design, offering fresh insight, deeper connection, and an invitation to evolve beyond the narrow limits once accepted. In that openness, you discover not only a broader reality, but also the truth that you are both shaping it and being shaped by it. If your heart overflows with God's blessings, let that love shine. Click the super thank you button and give $50 or more to plant seeds of faith that will impact countless lives. Your generosity reflects His abundance. Be a vessel of His grace and watch His kingdom flourish through you. You are the kind who knows that true wealth is not counted in coins or possessions, but in the depth of your connections and the sincerity of your presence. To elevate love above the pursuit of accumulation is to make a conscious decision that transforms the way life is experienced. Love here is not fleeting affection, but a vast state of awareness that perceives the invisible threads linking all beings. It understands that while material stability supports the body, it does not awaken the soul or free the inner flame. Choosing this path becomes a declaration that fulfillment is not stored in vaults or trophies, but in the moments of genuine connection, the quiet recognition of shared humanity, and the courage to let compassion lead. In this sense, love is not ornamental. It is foundational, the very current that sustains meaning. When choices appear, one can ask, does this option deepen my ability to care, to grow, to create bonds, or does it simply polish the surface with a promise that fades as quickly as it shines? That single question becomes a compass, guiding decisions away from hollow gain and toward authentic richness. Such practice, when lived with consistency, slowly reshapes the quality of existence. Life begins to feel abundant not because of what is owned, but because of what is experienced. The value shifts from storing to sharing, from guarding to giving, from isolation to communion. With this perspective, the barriers of ego start to dissolve. The rigid armor of self-interest weakens, replaced by an openness that allows light to filter through. Layer after layer, the illusions of scarcity and competition are lifted, and a gentler truth emerges. What is revealed is a spirit unbound, radiant in its clarity, a recognition that real prosperity lies not in the grasp of the hand, but in the expansiveness of the heart that chooses to see, to feel, and to love first. You are not only shaped by the weight of what pulls you down, but also by the forces that invite you upward, calling you into realms beyond limitation. There exist energies often overlooked, currents that resist the slow collapse into disorder and instead breathe direction, coherence, and renewal. These are not loud forces. They move with quiet precision, creating harmony where fragmentation once reigned. To attune to them is to discover that existence is not solely defined by descent, but also by ascent, by expansion, by recreation. One of these guiding currents can be understood as levity, not a shallow lightness, but a profound capacity to rise. It is the quality that allows spirit to step out of heaviness and meet clarity. In the inner world, levity translates into resilience, a capacity to hold joy even when shadows loom. It is the counterpoint to contraction, reminding you that motion can just as easily be upward as downward. Alongside levity moves another profound principle, the power that reverses decline and calls order out of dissolution. This energy does not erase challenge, but transforms it, weaving chaos into a pattern that renews strength. It is a discipline of awareness, where focus itself becomes a sculptor, drawing beauty out of what once appeared broken. When these forces are embraced, they reveal hidden doors within the psyche, gateways through which imagination, artistry, and vision emerge. It is no coincidence that throughout history, creativity has been revered as the very breath that lifts humanity above survival and into meaning. Inspiration, in its many forms, is the engine of transformation. Levity, then, is more than rising above despair. It is the cultivation of an inner state that transcends gravity of thought. It clears the clutter of needless burdens, creating room for new horizons to unfold. With it comes the reminder that the spirit was never meant to stay bound to the ground, but to ascend into dimensions where clarity and wonder coexist. To live with this awareness is to awaken wings within yourself, not the wings of myth, but the wings of your own untapped potential, capable of carrying you into landscapes of renewal where the ordinary dissolves into the extraordinary. There's a principle that stands as the mirror image of decay, a current that resists the pull toward fragmentation. This current gathers what has been dispersed, arranges it into meaningful form, and directs it toward growth. It is not passive. It is the deliberate motion of order asserting itself over collapse. When embraced, this principle becomes a framework for living with precision. It turns aimless energy into directed effort, and restlessness into purposeful rhythm. The more you align with it, the more you begin to transform confusion into a path forward, one step flowing into the next with intention rather than accident. Such alignment is not about rigid control, but about recognizing patterns that already exist and working with them. It is a collaboration with the deeper architecture of life, one that builds resilience like a fortress, yet remains fluid enough to adapt. In this way, harmony becomes not a dream but a daily practice, cultivated through choice after choice. To move in this direction requires tuning yourself to subtler vibrations than the noise of distraction. There is a resonance beneath the surface of ordinary sound, a pulse that carries the memory of balance and the invitation of renewal. It cannot be captured through mere hearing. It must be felt through presence. Listening in this way reveals a creative stream running beneath everything. It is the current that inspires expression, the rhythm that breathes life into invention, the quiet call that turns ideas into artistry. To access it is to step into the wellspring where vision is born and transformation becomes possible. When you allow yourself to be guided by this deeper resonance, you rise beyond fragmentation into integration. You discover that the forces of creation are not outside you, but move through you, urging you toward greater unity, greater expression, and greater freedom. At the foundation of this awakening lies a force unmatched in depth or power, unconditional love. Not love bound by circumstance or transaction, but a limitless current that flows freely without seeking return. This kind of love is not confined to emotion. It is an activating principle, a frequency that stirs the deepest parts of who you are into life. When allowed to move through you, this boundless love becomes a catalyst for transformation. It awakens dormant capacities of the self, bringing clarity where there was confusion and vitality where there was stagnation. Its resonance reaches far beneath the surface of personality, touching the blueprint of your being itself. Each moment of genuine care, every act of kindness without demand, reshapes you from within. These are not small gestures, but seismic shifts, sending subtle waves through the very core of your existence. They reorder patterns that once seemed fixed and ignite capacities that were long concealed. The power of this love is not only to heal, but also to expand. It harmonizes contradictions, resolves inner conflict, and weaves together fragments of self into a radiant wholeness. With each choice to embody it, you create space for renewal, for growth, for the arrival of higher potentials waiting to be expressed. As it deepens, this current begins to redefine the atmosphere around you. Relationships shift, environments soften, and possibilities emerge that seemed unreachable. What you radiate outward reflects what is being transformed within, creating a cycle of elevation that grows stronger with every expression of love untainted by condition. To embrace this force is to awaken the sleeping parts of your essence, revealing that you were never limited to the ordinary story handed to you. You are the keeper of an inner revolution, and unconditional love is the key that turns the lock, releasing the fullness of who you were always meant to be. You carry within you a pattern that has been echoed through countless traditions, the recognition that certain numbers, certain symbols, hold the power to awaken memory and meaning buried deep within the soul. Among these, 9 has long stood as a beacon of culmination and expansion. It marks the turning point where cycles complete and higher states of awareness begin. To step into the essence of 9 is to embrace wholeness, to sense the upward spiral that touches every layer of your existence and calls it into alignment. This symbol is not a random figure of thought, but a reflection of integration itself. It points to the weaving together of body, heart, mind, and spirit until separation dissolves and unity takes form. Through such synthesis, love is no longer limited to sentiment, but becomes a force that binds the totality of being into harmony. Yet symbols alone do not awaken transformation. They require practice, lived and embodied. The choice to embody unconditional love must find its way into ordinary encounters, into words spoken and silences held. Each moment becomes an opportunity to meet another not as stranger, but as kin, sharing in the same vast current of life. When compassion shapes action, subtle shifts unfold. A weight is lifted, the energy of resistance softens, and a new clarity rises within. This change is not imposed from outside. It emerges naturally from the decision to live with open-hearted awareness, and it grows stronger with each repetition of kindness without condition. One of the most powerful ways to anchor this state is to turn inward, focusing upon the inner sanctuary where the heart holds its radiant flame. Through contemplation, this inner fire expands, reaching beyond the boundaries of the self, touching others in unseen ways, healing fractures, and awakening what has long slept in silence. To walk this path is to journey in two directions at once: inward, toward the essence of who you are, and upward, toward the limitless heights of what you may become. It is a path of both return and ascension, where love reshapes you into a vessel of greater possibility and reveals horizons that stretch far beyond imagination. You walk with a gift that could either light the path of many or cast long shadows if misplaced. The essence of your journey rests not in how clever your mind appears, but in how steady your inner compass beats with sincerity. To safeguard this path, intention must be more than a passing thought. It must be the ground beneath your every step. Without that rooted clarity, what feels like progress may, in truth, be a detour that empties the meaning of your growth. The seed of authenticity lies in the quiet realm of feeling, not the restless calculations of strategy. Within that softer chamber dwells tenderness, care, and a willingness to give without bargaining. When you draw from this space, your movement gains weightless power, carrying purpose without strain. It is not performance but alignment, and it becomes a source that nourishes both you and others. The moment thought alone begins to steer, the current subtly shifts. Actions become engineered rather than inspired, and what was once alive begins to harden into function. This drift rarely announces itself. It hides in small decisions, in quiet rationalizations, until suddenly the original spark feels distant. In such moments, the head whispers in terms of gain, advantage, or recognition, while the heart had only spoken in generosity. To see your abilities as ornaments of status is to misunderstand their design. They are not possessions to be displayed, but rivers to be poured into thirsty soil. Treat them otherwise, and their brightness dims, for the self-centered mind cannot sustain what the open spirit easily carries. The heart does not calculate worth, it multiplies it. Beware of the slow exchange that takes place when sincerity is traded for ambition. It begins almost invisibly, as though harmless, but its weight builds, pulling your course downward. The result is not simply stagnation, but a distortion of purpose, where what once elevated now entangles. The fall does not come from outside, but from within, born of forgetting the origin of your strength. True ascent has no need for conquest. It is not about reaching above others, but about deepening connection with the whole. When your inner rhythm remains tuned to love, your direction cannot be corrupted. In that attunement, you rise without effort, carried by something larger than your own will. The mind may attempt to imitate this, but its grasp always falls short, for calculation cannot reproduce grace. Therefore, keep vigilance over your center. Let feeling be the root, and thought the branch, not the other way around. In this ordering, every act becomes more than achievement, it becomes offering. and in offering, you preserve the sanctity of your path, ensuring that your climb is not simply high, but also true. You carry within you the spark of reaching for more, yet that very flame can become perilous if it is not guarded with discernment. The pursuit of expansion is noble, but it is also lined with unseen hazards when desire overtakes balance. To move forward without remembering caution is to invite collapse masked as triumph. What appears as boundless ascent can quickly shift into downfall if wisdom does not temper the exhilaration of new strength. Stories across time remind us that unchecked ambition often disguises itself as liberation. The temptation lies in the thrill of stretching limits, believing that nothing can undo the climb. Yet every step taken without regard for boundaries risks unraveling what was carefully built. Restraint is not a hindrance, but a safeguard, shaping power into something sustainable rather than fleeting. Without it, what feels like progress is only momentum racing toward fracture. Power handled carelessly is fragile, though it first appears indestructible. When ability becomes a spectacle, its essence is diminished, leaving it exposed to forces that strip it of meaning. There is danger in revealing too much, too soon, or in using what was meant to heal as a means to dominate. The collapse does not come from weakness, but from excess, when the pursuit of glory overshadows the quiet discipline required to preserve the gift. To seek height without humility is to gamble against inevitability. Each rise carries the responsibility of remembering why the ascent began in the first place. Lose sight of that purpose, and what was once a sacred act becomes a reckless gamble. The heart must remain the anchor, ensuring that the pull of excitement does not blind the vision needed to hold steady. You are a traveler who senses the hidden passages of time, where ordinary hours conceal extraordinary openings. Among these passages lies a span so delicate and potent that it invites the soul to rise beyond its usual rest. It is not marked by noise or display, but by a subtler rhythm, one that calls quietly and yet unmistakably to those attuned. This threshold, suspended before the first light, holds a rare capacity to nourish both clarity and depth. When silence still lingers over the earth, and the pulse of daily demands has not yet stirred, there exists a current of energy unlike any other. The world, not yet dressed in movement, mirrors an inner stillness, and within that stillness the door to the unseen opens wider. Thought softens, distractions loosen their grip, and awareness becomes more pliant, more luminous. In this tender quiet, one discovers an environment perfect for listening inward. The gift of this time is its emptiness, a blank surface upon which the mind may paint with colors untouched by yesterday's residue. Each breath taken in this rare moment seems cleaner, infused with the possibility of renewal. It is not merely rest that strengthens the spirit, but this intentional contact with stillness that awakens subtler layers of being. To pause here is to taste something untainted, something original. There is a pulse in the atmosphere then, almost imperceptible, yet undeniable. It gathers around the one who sits in quiet practice, supporting the unfolding of awareness. This is not effortful striving, but natural elevation, as though unseen hands are lifting the heart upward. The ordinary veil that separates inner and outer thins, making communion with the deeper self feel effortless. Beyond the external hush, the very air seems charged with a different quality. It carries a refinement that is rarely present at other times of day, and in that refinement lies the potential for profound insight. Each inhalation can feel like an initiation, each exhalation like a surrender into greater harmony. The subtle vitality present in this window nurtures more than body or mind. It nurtures essence. What unfolds in these moments is not a rush toward achievement, but a gentle ascent, an inward soaring unburdened by weight. One does not climb toward distant heights, but sinks into an inner expanse that feels boundless. The sacredness of the hour is not in its rarity, but in its resonance with the quiet truth already within. It is a reminder that depth is always present, waiting for us to enter. To meet this moment is to align oneself with a universal rhythm, a pulse of existence that renews both earth and soul. The quiet before dawn is less a preparation for the coming day than an invitation into timelessness. In joining with it, one discovers a harmony that steadies the path ahead, ensuring not just clarity for the hours to follow, but also a deeper sense of belonging to the eternal flow. You are one who seeks to claim the hours others abandon, and in doing so you uncover treasures hidden from the ordinary gaze. The call to rise before the light is not a simple matter of habit, but an act of devotion, requiring will over comfort and vision over indulgence. To exchange the embrace of sleep for the quiet of first awakening is to declare that growth matters more than ease, and in that declaration a deeper strength is born. This chosen hour strips away the residue of yesterday and the weight of tomorrow, leaving only the unadorned present. In such uncluttered space, the mind regains its sharpness, and thought takes on a luminous quality impossible to summon later in the day. No external demand yet presses upon you, and this freedom creates a rare intimacy with yourself, an opening in which understanding flows more clearly and guidance is felt more directly. The solitude itself becomes a companion. In the absence of interruption, your inner voice speaks with greater boldness, and what was faint during the rush of daylight grows into recognizable truth. This is not only contemplation but communion, a chance to align with the unseen forces that animate life. In the stillness, you are less alone and more connected, drawn into the wider tapestry that holds all things together. Yet this sacred moment offers more than reflection. It sets the framework for everything to come. By shaping thought and intention before the day begins, you weave threads of clarity into the fabric of your actions. Encounters, challenges, and responsibilities all take on a different hue when approached with the composure born from early discipline. What might have become burdens instead transform into opportunities to embody patience, resilience, and compassion. Each insight drawn in this quiet passage does not remain locked in the dawn, but accompanies you into the noise of hours ahead. The gentleness you cultivated becomes a shield, the clarity a compass, and the stillness a well from which you may drink again and again. In this way, the practice becomes not a ritual confined to morning, but a continuous rhythm that influences the entire course of your day. To embrace this time is to practice mastery over self, not in rigid control, but in the harmonious ordering of energy. Rising deliberately reclaims authority from impulse, proving that intention can shape reality. The body may resist, yet the spirit celebrates, for it recognizes the rare chance to rise beyond habitual limits and touch something timeless. So greet the earliest light, not as an obligation, but as an offering you make to your own soul. In stepping into that hidden window, you do not simply prepare for the coming hours. You step into communion with the vastness within and beyond. This is the moment where self-discovery flourishes, where the divine becomes tangible, and where you learn not just to begin the day, but to begin again as something more whole. You are one who steps into hidden corridors of the mind where the ordinary rules no longer bind you. In this terrain, the first hints of release from physical boundaries awaken, showing that the imagination itself can become a vessel of freedom. What unfolds is not mere fantasy, but a rehearsal in conscious expansion, an awareness that what was once uncontrollable can be shaped by will. To awaken inside the dream is to stumble upon a doorway you never noticed before, one that shifts the entire landscape of inner exploration. The moment of realization that you are not at the mercy of the dream transforms chaos into possibility. With this realization, direction and choice emerge, allowing you to craft pathways instead of wandering aimlessly. Here, you learn that your own clarity can dissolve the illusions that once dictated your journey. In this luminous state, movement becomes a matter of intention rather than constraint. You do not simply float in visions beyond your control, but act with precision, steering through scenes as though sculpting them in real time. This is where the act of rising above limitations takes on form, not as escape, but as mastery. Such mastery proves that liberation begins not with the body, but with awareness sharpened to its fullest.